For about 3 decades, Somaliland has been seen as this real beacon of peace and democracy in the Horn of Africa. But, that light is starting to flicker. There's a serious challenge coming from the inside, and it's threatening the rights of half the population. It's pushing this democratic dream right to a crossroads. And honestly, what happens next is going to define the future for millions.
In this, what you're seeing here, this isn't just some distant political headline. The SIAH network makes it absolutely clear that for the women who are on the front lines of change in Somaliland, this is a dangerous and escalating new reality. I mean, these are the very voices that helped build the peace in the first place, and now they're the ones being systematically silenced.
So to really get what's at stake here, we have to look past the statistics. We need to hear the personal stories of the women at the very heart of this struggle, because their experiences, well, they show a pattern that is deeply, deeply troubling.
Okay, let's start with Ugbad Mahamoud Abdi. She's a really well-known singer. In April of 2024, she was arrested at her shop in Hargeisa. And then the police actually went on Facebook, a super public platform, to try and justify arresting her, saying her clothes were inappropriate. But here's the kicker. There's literally no specific law in Somaliland that dictates what women can and can't wear.
So you have to ask, right? What was really going on here? Well, the timing tells you everything you need to know. Just 1 week before she was arrested, Ugbad had dropped this incredibly popular song on social media, and it was in support of an opposition presidential candidate. So yeah, this was never about her clothes, it was about her politics. It was a clear attempt to silence a powerful, dissenting voice.
And Ugbad's story, as shocking as it is not some one-off event. It's actually a key piece of a much bigger, more systematic backlash against women that's been getting worse and worse. When you actually lay it all out on a timeline, the pattern is it's impossible to ignore.
Just look at this. From 2022 to 2024, you can see a clear and frankly chilling escalation. It starts with the mass arrest of women who are peacefully protesting. Then, an opposition politician is abducted and tortured. A journalist gets detained without due process. Then we see Ugbad's arrest, and finally, a religious teacher is publicly shamed for having progressive views. You see? This isn't random. It's a systematic targeting of women who dare to have a voice in politics, in media, in art, in religion, everywhere.
And let's just focus on that first number for a second, 23 plus.
In August 2022, more than 23 women were arrested and just held for weeks with no formal charges. And what was their crime? They were peacefully protesting delays to the presidential election. That's it. They were using their democratic rights and were met with silence and prison walls.
What this all reveals is this deep, troubling contradiction right at the heart of Somaliland. It's this huge paradox between the rights that are guaranteed in its own constitution and the dangerous reality that women are now being forced to live with every day.
I mean, this slide just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got the promise of the Constitution, equality, freedom of expression, the right to protest, and even explicit safeguards for women. But then you look to the right, and you see the reality of the last couple of years, where every single one of those promises has been systematically broken.
So what's driving all this? This quote really gets to the core of it. We're seeing religious interpretations being twisted and, frankly, weaponized. The fight for basic equality is being deliberately reframed as an attack on tradition and faith. And that creates this powerful social excuse to justify suppressing women's rights.
And here's the crucial thing to understand. This isn't just about women's rights in a vacuum. This backlash is eating away at the very legal foundations of Somaliland. It's threatening to undo 3 whole decades of democratic progress.
A huge part of this is this idea of impunity. Just think back to Sarah Haroon, the opposition politician who was abducted and tortured. No one was ever investigated. No one was held accountable. This sends an absolutely chilling message to every woman who's even thinking about a life in politics. It basically says, you are not safe and no one will protect you. It's a terrifyingly effective way to keep women out of public life. Now, while Somaliland isn't officially recognized as a state by the world, it has committed to respecting international law. And all of these actions we've been talking about, the detentions, the violence, the silencing of dissent, they completely fly in the face of the fundamental human rights that are protected all over the globe. Okay, so, faced with this pretty serious crisis, what's the path forward? The good news is the SIHA Network report doesn't just point out the problem, it actually offers a roadmap for change, with really clear responsibilities for the government, for civil society, and for the international community.
So for the government, the recommendations are really direct. First, and this is the most fundamental thing, Uphold your own constitution. Second, create a specific task force whose entire job is to monitor and actually enforce women's rights. And third, take some proactive steps, like creating legal quotas to make sure women aren't just in the room, but have real power in government.
Civil society, of course, has a huge role to play from the ground up. They've got to ramp up their advocacy, build safe networks for women on the front lines, and, this is critical, they need to engage with religious leaders to challenge these harmful interpretations and promote a vision for Somaliland that's more inclusive and equitable.
And finally, the international community has to step up. This means putting money where it counts, prioritizing funding to directly support and strengthen the women's rights defenders who are on the ground doing the work. It also means using its diplomatic influence, through trade, aid, public statements, to remind the Somaliland government that the world is watching.
Which really leaves us with this one essential question. The struggle for women's rights in Somaliland. It's not some side issue. It is a direct test of its democratic soul. Because when it comes right down to it, can any nation truly call itself a democracy if the voices, the rights, and the freedoms of half its population are under attack?